Hey guys, hope everyone's having a phenomenal week so far. I know I am. And today we got another video to look at. Not necessarily pony sort, but it's more absurd. It's definitely up there. Now, in case you guys don't know who Dreamcast Guy is, he's a guy with a pretty big following, though I'm convinced that most people who subscribe to him is just a laugh at him. And a lot of people have called him out in the past, people such as Griffin Gaming, for a good example. Anyway, this guy decided to upload a video about studios that Sony must buy up to keep in competition with Microsoft, and I found it pretty fucking absurd.
There's been a major debate sort of just raging across the internet for this last 72 hours. This weekend, there's been a very hot topic, which is basically, how is Sony going to fight back against Microsoft, with Xbox seeming to try and take over the entire world by scooping up every single studio they can.
Alright mate, let me stop you right there. They're not trying to take over the world. God, you're going on like they're some kind of aliens. They're just trying to be the number one in the gaming market. I think that's what most gaming companies or console hardware manufacturers try to do. They try to be number one in the world. Can't fault them for that, really. In terms of fighting back, God, we're not at war.
The acquisitions of Microsoft are now costing them hundreds of billions of dollars. Does Sony need to buy their own studios in order to keep up? I want to talk about that today.
Yeah, and that's what Sony have also been doing. They bought up Insomniac Games, which was making games for multi-platforms. They made Sunset Overdrive for the Xbox One when it first came out, and that was an exclusive. So yeah, they are. The only difference is Sony hasn't got as much money as Microsoft. Microsoft's $1 trillion company.
Beginning with this tweet, which I think is sort of what stoked the fires of the rage of this entire console war discussion.
Oh my god, what time frame are you living in, dude? There hasn't been a console war since the PS4 basically curb stomped the Xbox One.
This is Xbox head Phil Spencer talking about the fact that he's still in conversations with the heads of Sony about the Activision Blizzard deal. Basically, he's saying that even though so much of the entire gaming industry is now owned legally and completely by Microsoft, they're saying that some stuff is still going to exist on PlayStation.
No, there isn't. They don't even own 30% of the gaming market. Let's be honest, guys. Come on, you got the Nintendo Switch, they own their stuff, Sony owns their stuff, Microsoft's acquiring their stuff now. You're going on like they're trying to take over the world. They're not a monopoly yet. They do not own nowhere near enough to be a monopoly yet. So that fact's, well, factually incorrect, to be quite frank with you.
The specific thing they list here is that apparently some Call of Duty or some version of Call of Duty will continue to exist on PlayStation.
Well, if we're going to go off of Microsoft's previous track record, Deathloop, which was made by Bethesda Studios, is still a timed exclusive on the PlayStation 5, and they honoured that deal, they honoured that contract. So I'd expect them to play ball this time round as well. And Microsoft owns Bethesda, so they obviously allowed this deal to happen, or they honoured this contract. In addition to that, it's still going to take a couple years for it to come to true fruition. Yeah, because from a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense, because they can earn money selling the game on the PlayStation as well as the Xbox. And the chances are, the advantages of getting it on the Xbox is it will probably come on Game Pass day one. We've seen this strategy over and over again. Should you be surprised?
Well, what is Sony going to do? Who is Sony going to buy? The major names I keep seeing thrown around is Square Enix and Capcom, mostly because in the past, PlayStation has worked very closely with them for the entire previous generation.
Let's be quite frank. To buy the publishers of Square Enix or Capcom, I don't think Sony could do it, to be quite fair. And no, this is not me hating on Sony. I own both an Xbox and a PlayStation, thank you very much. But let's be realistic here. Sony hasn't got the funds to do that. What? Square Enix is worth about $5 billion and Capcom's probably worth about the same, if not less. They couldn't afford to buy them. Plus, what IPs will they be getting for them? Let's be honest, guys, come on. What? Devil May Cry and Street Fighter, one game's already exclusive to your platform for now. And what? Final Fantasy? Do you know what? Final Fantasy, yeah, I could see them getting the licensing to produce Final Fantasy games exclusively, because that's what they're apparently doing this generation. Apparently Final Fantasy 16 is not coming to the Xbox platform at all. which, you know, is fair enough, because in my honest opinion, Final Fantasy's always kind of been a PlayStation game. But as far as going with actually purchasing them, I couldn't see it. Honestly, can't see it. I think it's actually quite absurd. You think Sony would be able to buy these? Realistically, just not happening. I'm sorry, dude.
Obviously, things like Final Fantasy VII Remake being console exclusive and now being on PC, or even things like, obviously, Street Fighter V to this day only exists on the PlayStation, which is very, very unique.
Making Street Fighter exclusive to the PlayStation console wasn't a bright move in my opinion. I mean, yeah, they've got a community, but that's because it's one of the biggest fighting franchises around. But fighting franchises aren't as big as first-person shooters, and that could have benefited from a multi-platform release. I just felt that was a big uh-oh on Capcom's behalf.
Now, you guys are going to think I'm completely crazy, but hear me out on this. I think that if Sony is going to buy anybody, it needs to be Electronic Arts.
That is the most absurd thing I've ever fucking heard in my life. You know what? That is the most stupidest thing I think I've ever heard Dreamcast Guy say. Seriously. Sony buy Electronic Arts. Like, what? Are you on crack? You really think Sony could afford to buy out EA? Like, seriously, come on. EA's worth about 15 billion. 20 billion. Sony could not afford that. That's worth more than Bethesda Studios that Microsoft got ZeniMax for. You really think they could afford that? Absolutely no chance. No chance in hell. That is just so absurd. And that's if EA would even sell to Sony. Because I'm pretty sure they could put up the not for sale sign. I mean, let's be honest, guys. I think Microsoft has tried to buy Sega on a few occasions and they've probably just stuck up the not for sale sign. Hence why they come to all these deals with them about putting Yakuza to the console, and there's no streaming partnership that they've got.
And for this is because I think Electronic Arts is in a very, very pathetic position. In general, a lot of EA games are super reviled. Electronic Arts' head of management seems to constantly try and tank their own projects. If we're talking about a bunch of developers that know what they're doing but need better management, it's definitely Electronic Arts. Now,
trust me, the quality of the EA games has been terrible, I'll agree with you there, but I doubt that anyone in that company really knows what they're doing, apart from when it comes to Apex, because that seems to be the most successful thing they've got going so far. I mean, yeah, they fixed Battlefront 2, but, well, it's too little too late for that.
the reason I say Electronic Arts is because they are also owners of a lot of talent we all love. This can be things like, obviously, Dragon Age. Everybody loves Dragon Age. We can see a better version of Mass Effect coming back. Even things like...
I mean, we're already getting a Mass Effect 4, or a quote-unquote better version of Mass Effect anyway, so it really wouldn't make a difference, to be honest with you. As far as Dragon Age goes, yeah, I love Dragon Age, but I couldn't see it ever being owned exclusively to the PlayStation console. Because again, it's a multi-plat game. I think that game did really, really well on the Xbox 360, so same as Mass Effect. Mass Effect was an Xbox exclusive, for fuck's sake.
I'm just thinking about the fact that along with BioWare being there, there's so many tinier projects that exist just inside the Electronic Arts umbrella. Think about the potential and budget of a Sony exclusive for a new Star Wars game or something, because previously Electronic Arts has made a lot of Star Wars games.
Yeah, and how many of those Star Wars games have actually been good? EA's track record with Star Wars has been fucking awful. They've only managed to release one decent Star Wars game, with the first two Star Wars Battlefront games being absolutely fucking terrible, and then you come down to Jedi Fallen Order, which was, I guess, decent.
The fact that I think the major thing that Sony needs most right now is not necessarily extra game series, it's more of just more talented developers to work on the stuff that they already own.
Nah, I think they've got really good developers. I mean, Insomniac is great with their Spider-Man game, and obviously their Wolverine game coming up is probably going to be a smash hit. You know, they've got that exclusive deal with Quantum Dream. You know, I loved all the Quantum Dream David Cage games with Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human. They're all great games. So it's not the developers that are the problem, because they can produce decent games. The problem is, with Sony, is they can't make games with enough replay value. They had some with Resistance and Killzone, but then they just scrapped them in the end. It's nothing to do with how many developers they own. It's to do with the fact that I could probably beat Spider-Man in a day and I'll probably never touch it again. It's the fact that I could probably beat something like Ratchet and Clank in 5 hours and not touch it again. That's the problem with PlayStation games that are exclusive to the platform. Now, don't get me wrong, they've got games like Final Fantasy, which is now exclusive, which are great games, but again, you've beat them once, you're not really going back to them, are you? They haven't got enough multiplayer games, and multiplayer games give you replay value, not single player games. That's the problem.
Now, the example I want to give is the fact that Sony last year bought a couple different studios that were all completely acquired. Now, I do really like this image that shows the fact that if you really think about it, there is a lot of very powerful exclusive games that already exist on the PlayStation.
I mean, I wouldn't call that list powerful. I'd call them good games though, like Spider-Man. Uncharted was good, even though we haven't seen a new Uncharted game since 2017. And then you've got God of War, which is absolutely so awesome that they ported it to PC. And then Horizon Zero Dawn, and the Horizon franchise, which is again another great franchise from what I hear.
They decided to buy some very strange stuff. Housemarque, obviously the makers of Returnal, which everybody loves Returnal a lot. It became a very big cult classic instantaneously.
Wasn't that game broken like shit when it launched?
They also bought Bluepoint, which it seems like Bluepoint, along with making fantastic remakes of things like Shadow of the Colossus, they could be working on maybe a new version of Bloodborne, or maybe a Bloodborne 2.
I mean, yeah, I'd be down for a Bloodborne 2, can't lie.
Obviously, Firesprite. Firesprite is one of the smaller studios they worked at that apparently is going to be making PlayStation VR exclusive games, which is quite interesting.
Hey, I wonder what happened to all those studios that Microsoft bought to make games for the Kinect. I wonder if they're still around, or they went when the gimmick died.
I've seen people kicking around names like Ubisoft or other studios like this that have very big studios already, but my thought is that Ubisoft just kinda sucks. It feels like Ubisoft keeps just printing out the same projects again and again and again,
I mean, isn't that most game publishers or game studios? They have a franchise where they keep cranking them out because it makes them more money. I mean, look at Activision with Call of Duty. They kept cranking them out every year and people still bought them. You got bloody Bethesda Studios who kept cranking out Fallouts and Elder Scrolls and so on and so forth because it makes them money. There's nothing wrong with them cranking out the same type of games as long as they sell. So the fact that they suck is completely irrelevant.
The idea of a Watch Dogs or Division 3 only existing on PlayStation doesn't seem to pack as much of a wallop of...
I mean, it'd be sorting out their exclusive multiplayer game section quite a lot, which is what they're sorely lacking in, so I wouldn't say that's a terrible shout, to be honest with you. But like I said, they can't afford it.
Maybe just Sony finally using their own series to the maximum of their ability. Like, somebody listed this out. I found this really tiny tweet here, but I think it brings up a very good point, which is the fact that if you consider it, it's rather insane that Sony owns about 100 different legendary series. Like, these are things that are completely owned. Everything from Wipeout, Ape Escape, Gravity Rush, Legend of Dragoon, Uncharted, Little Big Planet, Ghost of Tsushima, Resistance Fall of Man, which is a huge personal favorite of mine, Infamous, Ratchet & Clank, God of War, and this doesn't even get into things like does anybody remember freaking Killzone? This game was so recent, so fantastic. There are a couple Killzone games that I feel like are truly 10 out of 10 experiences that sold a lot of systems.
I like the way he says Killzone was great while he displays footage from like the worst Killzone game ever that only probably sold a lot because it came packed with your console. It's like saying that the first Sonic the Hedgehog game sold well because it came packed with the Genesis.
And this, to me, is the most important aspect of this. When we're talking about Xbox versus PlayStation, there is a point to this. It's not just about internet battles. It's not about comment sections and seeing who can get the most likes on their burn. In my opinion, it is down to Sony and Microsoft trying to pump up their personal console sales. It's about them trying to push the envelope to see who can actually win this console generation.
No shit.
Seriously, does this guy think Microsoft and Sony give a flying fuck about the console wars and the fucking Sony and Xbox fanboys going at it? And to be fair, in all fairness, Xbox fanboys don't really exist anymore. It's like Order 66 wiped them all out.
Sony is doing this strategy right now where they're trying to make a great game with each studio dropping one project every 4 years. Now, this is something that I think is nice in the long run. I think it's cool that there is just such a built-up base of fans, but I feel like that speed is way too slow.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I would rather wait a long time for a good game that's actually working and not broken, like Cyberpunk 2077 or Sonic 06. I'd rather wait for a good game to come out than have them rush their games out. So I'm okay with them taking their time, personally, but you know, fanboys are impatient.
I mean, I seriously do love what PlayStation is doing a lot when it comes to the games they release. They are just dropping so many bangers, and as somebody who is a big Spider-Man fan and stuff, it's cool that we're seeing this like bigger, open, more high-quality efforts done by Sony themselves. I just wish that they had a way to sort of speed things up. It's weird to think that there are more dead classic series that are owned by Sony.
I mean, yeah, he's not wrong, but then I think that's with most companies. They've got IPs which are just kind of dead, which they leave lying around all the time. Like I've said, Killzone, SOCOM, MAG, even to an extent, Resistance. But then, you know, the same could be said about Microsoft with Blinks the Time Sweeper, Razor's Hell. I'd love to see those games come back.
Than maybe any other person in existence. It's weird the fact that we're not seeing another Order 1886. We're not seeing the Legend of Dragoon remake. We're not seeing like Bloodborne as an exclusive. Give us a Bloodborne something. Like, it's nuts to me to think that there is just so much incredible potential. Even games like MotorStorm.
Yeah, because I'm sure everyone wants to see a sequel to a game that took them 5 hours to beat in Order 1886. But I've heard some rumors about MotorStorm coming out with another game. Alright, so this guy basically just contradicts himself throughout this whole fucking video. Imagine he started the video off by saying that Sony needs to compete with Microsoft by buying their own publishers like Capcom and Square Enix, and then suggests that they buy EA, which obviously wasn't absurd enough. But then
there is more amazing stuff sitting on the shelf gathering dust at Sony headquarters than there is games on the shelf. Sony, before you go out shopping, maybe invest in yourselves. Maybe find a way to create more studios.
This guy comes back on himself and says, no, they need small developers to fucking start up some of their dead IPs. Gotta love the fact that he couldn't keep that same energy. Anyway guys, if you liked the video, hit a thumbs up, share it with your buddies, leave a comment down below, tell me what you think. Do you agree with Dreamcast Guy? Do you disagree? Would love to let you know. And I just want to take a quick reminder before I let you guys go. I'm on Discord, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Twitch, so follow me on there. Links are in the description.